Hello, and welcome to another episode of Nerd BS. This is episode 37, and we are on June 1st, actually, which is pretty cool.
Yes,
We got our, yeah, start of a new month, start of summer for a lot of people. I know my son is about to dip into summer right now. And unfortunately, because of that, our teacher friend, Kyle, is unable to be here. But fortunately, Tomas is still able to show up. How you doing there, Tomas?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing
Busy?
all right. Yeah, busy. Yeah, for those who don't know, I do run a campground. And I also broke my foot, like I said last year, which is making it a bit difficult. But we are, but as they say, the show must go on. So everything is still moving forward, whether or not I'm healed. So we're dealing with that. But I mean, all I can say is everything's still holding together. So that's
Good.
all I could be thankful for. Yeah, for right now. But either way, let's dip away from reality for a bit. Well, is there anything exciting happening in your life that you want to
Oh, my reality?
talk
No,
about
my
in
reality
your
is very
reality?
boring. But let's leave my reality behind. It's very drab right now. It's still waiting to hear something about the book. So
Oh, that sounds like
patience, patience, patience.
a blast. I do know. I've been trying to help you out on Twitter. There, you got a couple
Yeah,
stories, so
thank you
check
about
those out
that.
for sure. No problem. Yeah,
Definitely,
I advise
definitely has
everybody to check
helped.
those out.
I have been
Yeah,
working on that little short story a lot lately. So there's still, I think, 4 more parts. So
excellent,
almost done with it.
excellent. Perfect. Well, if you want to reach out to us, we talk about some of these things on Discord or Twitter. And if you want to get a hold of me and get you into the Discord, feel free to contact us at nerdbackstory@gmail.com or nerd_BS on Twitter. Or my Twitter is ScadMatrix. Um, all of the information is below as well. So you can check those out, our YouTube and whatever other social business we're on to at this point. I think Tomas has a couple things he might want to talk about
Yeah.
before we move on.
Yeah, I have a Twitter and an Instagram. Both are at TomasFDiaz86. I also have a website where I post all my little short stories. I do post them on Instagram and on Twitter with links to the website, but also you can go to the website and that's tomasfdiaz.com. And that's where I'm posting all my short stories right now because I'm waiting to hear back from my publisher. So I'm just writing a bunch of little short stories.
Well, well, we all definitely look forward to seeing when that eventually unfolds. Uh, but for now, we'll have to check out other people's stories, and we've have some new shows popping up. In particular, I know we talk a lot about Star Wars on this podcast quite a bit, and we got Kenobi that has finally popped up. The first two episodes, at least. I think the third one may have come out today, but I have not had a chance to go check it out. Uh, I know you haven't had a chance to check them out, have you?
Not yet. I am excited to, because I probably liked Boba Fett a little more than you, but I didn't really like Boba Fett, and I've heard a lot
Yeah.
of good things about this, how it's really great and everything. So I am excited for it. Uh, I've also uh heard a lot of things, although I can't remember his name now, the actor's name that does Kenobi. What's the actor's name? Mcgregor.
Oh, Ewan McGregor. There we go.
Yeah, McGregor. Okay.
Took me a
Uh,
second. I was about to search it, and
yeah,
you said
I
you
was.
said something McGregor, and I was like, "Oh, finally!" I've been reading it all week, and I usually know him. I was actually a huge fan of his for quite a while. I watched Moulin Rouge more times than I can count uh, because of that. But anyways, yes, Ewan
Yeah,
McGregor.
so I've seen a bunch of things online with him and stuff talking about it. I believe on Twitter and stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to see it because I'm excited when the actors are excited. I think that usually brings something more to the table, and it sounds like he was excited to do this. So
Yeah, from what I've heard mixed things because I used to hear that Ewan was one of the more enthusiastic in the original films, and I've heard mixed things about his acting in the first three, but I've always found him to be one of the better of the cast. And
Yeah.
then I've heard things on the side where he was kind of like checking it in a lot of the times, but
Uh,
I never felt that in his performance.
no.
So when I and so I heard that, and I've also heard the opposite, that he was like one of the more enthusiastic people. I
Mhm.
knew Hayden Christensen, for instance, was a huge Star Wars fan before even doing it, to the point where him and his roommate were just super jumping up for joy when he got the part. Because they
Yeah.
were and he's actually kept up with the Clone Wars and everything. Like he's still on with it, which is pretty
Uh-huh.
impressive. Even though, I mean, say what you will about the people who think he did a good job or a bad job in the prequels, he at least enjoyed what he did. So that's
I'll
definitely a bonus.
I don't know if it was honestly I don't know if I can say it was his acting because it's mainly the lines that made me cringe. Like,
That is a big thing, and we could go into a whole topic. I would
but
love to do
yeah.
a prequel cast with you guys because I have lots of problems with those movies. Those are movies that
Yeah.
I loved when they first came out, but then as I used to watch like marathon
Mhm.
the old trilogy and then the new trilogy or the prequels. I used to actually do them all six in a row. And the more I watched the prequels, the more I found that I disliked them.
Mhm.
The action's wonderful when it's there, but
Yeah.
uh, for instance, the first two, I mean, they're the first one's like okay, but there's some problems. The second one's really bad, but
Mhm.
then there's a really nice, fun ending with a lot of action,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then the last one has a lot of great action, and great set pieces, but I've never understood the love for it it's gotten. Revenge of the Sith. I mean, the
Mhm.
writing in it is just
It's
awful.
really bad.
It's
It's mainly the
cringy
fight
hearing them talk.
choreography. To me, it's mainly the fight choreography. The fight choreography was amazing in 3.
Yeah, it was incredible. There's a lot of really good stuff in that movie, but yeah, the like just when you hear them talk, it ruins.
Mhm.
It's pretty
Mhm.
much what had happened. But anyways, but then we got we I did enjoy Ewan McGregor as Kenobi. So when he came back to for this performance, I think everybody really wanted him to come back, and the prequels have kind of gotten a new light of fans. So this is
Mhm.
just another extension of that, and we got that in this show, and I've enjoyed it. I haven't felt it was like amazing yet.
Okay.
Now, I do feel that the start is stronger than Boba Fett for sure, because
Yeah.
I feel like the first episode of Boba Fett kind of drug on, and I didn't really know where it was going, or
Yeah.
was just bored. But at least this one, it was coherent, and it was a really a good, at least the first episode in general was a good slice of life. It kind of just
Mhm.
showed like a normal day on Tatooine without insanity. Now, things do happen, but you just see, Kenobi works at this meat packing plant essentially, and so you see
Uh,
him going to work, and traveling back to the city and going back to his cave, and it's a little slow, but it's also it's not boring. So,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
the second episode kicks it up a notch, with like some hunt stuff happening, and I don't want to ruin anything, so I won't.
yeah.
But but it definitely kicks it up. But I did have some issues with a bit of the pacing, I think, towards
Mm,
the latter half of the second uh, episode. So I'm curious to see where it goes, but I am enjoying it, and it did kind of bring more of an interest of me getting back into Star Wars, because I've kind of fallen back out a little bit. I go in through waves. I mean, you can't stay
yeah.
hyper focused on one
No,
thing for too long
no,
before you
you
kind of got to
definitely
back
not.
out. But it's bringing me back in a little bit. I'm not
Mm,
diving in yet, although I did see some Bad Batch season 2 stuff recently, and that got me pretty excited. So uh, I'd check it out, and I can't wait to actually do like some sort of uh, maybe we'll do like a spoiler version or something of Kenobi, because I know Kyle really likes Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. So
Mm.
this is going to be something we should discuss. And before I forget, for those who've stuck around this long, we are going to be discussing Moon Knight at the end with spoilers. So uh, it will be at the end, and I will make another announcement on that. But for now, I did finish season Stranger Things 2, the
Yeah.
part 1 of season 4. I don't know why I said 2. Stranger Things 4 part 1. So, and it has been really fun. My only complaint, too many cooks. There's too many people.
Ah.
There's too many people at this point. We got
Okay.
we got like 4 groups I think we're following. 4? I think 4
Oh
groups
wow.
of people we're following now, and it's a bit much. Granted, it's done well, so at least
Uh,
it's coherent and you can kind of keep up with it, but there's just a lot happening. And I guess this has got to be the grand finale or something, as what I'm assuming they're building up towards.
uh,
So, and I'm really enjoying it, but I will talk about that. We're going to have to talk about that as well at another point, because Tomas here has just started it. So I'm curious to see what his impressions are. I think he's halfway through season 3 now.
yeah.
So he's getting there. It took him a while to get on this bandwagon, but he finally got
Yeah.
on it.
I mean, there were just so many other things to watch all the time, and finally, I just was like, you know what? I saw that the last season, or that, sorry, I don't know why I said the last season, like I know something. The fourth season, uh, the fourth season was coming out, and I was like, you know what? I need to watch this. I can't let a whole nother season get out before I start this thing. Um, been really enjoying it. Been chugging through it, man. Yeah, halfway through season 3, and I definitely see what you mean about season 2 being kind of like a like
Yeah, it's a little bit, it's
season
probably the
1.
weakest of them for sure.
Yeah, season 1 was just great. It was done. It, it was it was done really well, and the fact that you had no idea what was out there, how it was working, just was so great to unravel the mystery with them.
Yeah, for sure.
um, and that's honestly kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, because in season 3, we're obviously kind of going down the same road again as all the other ones,
Hmm.
to a point from what I've seen, at least. So I'm just kind of like, I'm excited for season 4. And I know that season 4 kind of deals with the same things, at least from what I've seen in like previews and stuff. Um,
I mean, yeah, they all have the same
yeah,
similar premise. They all seem to be dealing with the upside down in some regard.
yeah. So
Uh,
my question was, do you think that was a smart move, or do you think they should have done something kind of as incredible as the upside down every single season?
you mean something new?
Yeah, like, so they deal with the upside down in season 1. In season 2, they deal with, I don't know, cosmic cosmic things. So from the stars, I don't know.
Yeah, you're just
Season
saying a totally new concept for each
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. After watching them, no, I think they do have a good ground on what this is, and it definitely kind of, and it does make the show stand out. It's unique, which I think is
Mhm.
why so many people are sticking to it. It's not exactly sci-fi. It's not exactly historical fiction.
Yeah.
It's in this weird, and it's not exactly a horror. Although I would say season 4 definitely ramps up the horror.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, and so I think it really has this nice balance, and
Mhm.
it also it's very good for instance, my son and his cousin. I think a lot of kids are getting more interested, or a lot of younger. I don't know if you get preteens, teens, whatever you want to
Mhm.
call them, are getting more into like horror in
Mhm.
general, and so I think this is helping them along. And it's adult, but it still reaches to them in a way,
Mhm.
and so I think it works well because of that. But I really like the upside down stuff, and
Yeah,
so I think it works. It's like I said, it's unique. It's a unique premise. I mean, I know there's been other, alternate dimension stuff around,
yeah,
but I think they
and they
do have a
have
really good take at it.
and they have done a really excellent job of progressing it. Like, if you notice, they've kind of hinted at what would happen in the next season in the season prior. Like, I remember it vividly in season 2 when the doctor tells him, what if the Russians get a hold of this, And then season 3, bam, we got Russians. And it
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay. And I'm pretty sure there's hints that's in season 1 that is like, oh, what about an army of these things? So um so I do think it's interesting that you can kind of see the progression and you progress with the characters as well. I just, man, just discovering that whole upside down and learning that whole mystery with them, I almost feel like you kind of sealed it in the first one. You could have just left it there and you could have given us a whole new mystery to uncover. Like,
I mean,
um,
it's an interesting idea, and I think, I mean, if I don't know if exactly season 4 they're wrapping up the Upside Down, but it is
mhm,
feeling that way. So I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. And if they do, I'm wondering what we're going to get after, or if this is just going to be a cap. It may be good to just have a cap on the Stranger Things quadrilogy, or whatever you want to call it,
yeah,
4 seasons, I guess. Uh, because not everything is that cut and dry.
mhm,
So we don't get a lot of shows that do a good start and a good end. They usually either die out at some point because the company is trying to milk it out for all it's worth.
mhm,
And when I saw season 2, I kind of felt how you did in a different way, because season 1 kind of ended so perfectly
yeah,
that season 2 kind of felt like we were just going back for popularity's sake.
mhm,
And so while it was decent, it compared to the first season was, yes, it was definitely
yeah,
it felt like it was overriding its course. But then season 3 kind of picked that up, picked those pieces back up, and you kind of felt more more in tune, for me at least. And then season 4 has actually been pretty nonstop. Like, I say there's too many storylines, but at the same time, I'm invested in all of them. So,
yeah,
so
yeah,
they're doing a good job at presenting it.
mhm,
It just does feel like too much. I guess it's when you compare this season with the first season, where you're following two parties. You're following
yeah,
the kids and you're following the adults, and that's it. And sometimes those like kind of cross, but
mhm,
really it's just like two groups. And now we're up to 4 groups of kid, or 3 groups of kids, and then one group of adults. So it's
yeah,
just it seems a bit much, but like I said, they're obviously doing a good job. But you
yeah,
are
yeah,
enjoying it.
definitely.
That's good.
Oh, yeah.
And they also ramp up the D&D stuff to 11 in season 4 too. So that's
Yeah,
even more, because I know they kind of, the first season they like hint at it a little bit, and it
and
seems
then
like
they
they
kinda
kind of leave it
dip off
alone
of
for a
it.
bit. Yeah, they leave it
Yeah,
alone for a while, and then in season 4 they're really going back into it, and to the
mhm,
point, and there's like in the first episode there's a really good scene um with D&D that
mhm,
is a pretty epic, if I do say so. I thought that was a really
yeah.
cool concept.
Well, and kind of one of the annoyances for me is, like, season 1 is great, the big bad, the Demogorgon, that's awesome, season 2, the big bad
What
is
was the big
mind
bad in season 2? It
it's
was,
supposed to be the Mind Flayer. It's the same Mind Flayer in season 3. It's just a different.
oh, it's just you don't really like, you don't, so like season 2 was like part 1. It was like season
Yeah,
2 and season 3. But I remember
yeah.
the Demidogs were in season 2, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was the whole
everyone keeps
Demidog
calling those,
storyline.
like, the demi-dogs, but when they go to announce the big bad in season 2, they call it the Mind Flayer,
Yeah, which is,
um,
and then in season 3
which
we
is
started
then
working with
again
the
in
Mind
season
Flayer.
3. Yeah,
Yeah.
so, like, for me personally, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, we had a really cool thing with the Demogorgon. Okay, it took them forever to announce this as a mind flare, which actually kind of bugged me. I was like, well, what is this thing? Like, you know what I mean? What am I supposed to be looking at? You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
and then and then they go like, oh, it's the mind flare, and I was like, okay, oh, it's the mind flare. And then the third one, and this is kind of what's bugging me in the third season, is like, oh, it's the mind flare, and I'm kind of like, no, it is clearly a slime monster. Like, we are dealing with oozes now. Like,
Yeah, I mean, the Demogorgon doesn't look like the Demogorgon creature,
no, I
and the
know.
Mindflayer definitely is like a totally different beast. But
Yeah,
it does, yeah, it is kind of like a tentacle blob
yeah.
monster. Uh,
But I
I
was like,
actually really enjoy the look of the Mindflayer in like D&D. The it kind of has the whole squid vibes, like Cthulhu esque.
yeah.
But this does not. I mean, this is all definitely a cosmic horror theme,
Mhm.
but it definitely is a different beast entirely.
Yeah. So, anyways, when I just saw the monster in season 3, I was like, well, that's clearly a slime monster. I don't know what's wrong with you kids. You guys need to look back at your monster manual.
Well, at least if it'll
An
comfort you at
obelisk,
all, at least in the fourth season, the creature that they name the monster definitely looks like and acts like the
like the
monster they are
monster. All right.
describing. So
Because
you'll have that
because
to look forward to.
because for me, like in my Sunday game, right, my group just got over dealing with an oblex. And this is
Mhm.
exactly what an oblex does. It takes over other people by making slime creations of them
Yeah.
and sending them out there. And I was like, this is exactly what's wrong. But anyways, uh,
Maybe they didn't have obelisks back then.
yeah,
That's another
maybe they
thing.
weren't in the 3 version. I don't know.
I think they're advanced D&D in that one. They might
Uh,
be at. I don't think they're at 3 yet. I don't know the dates align, but I don't think they're at 3 yet.
anyways, but I am enjoying it. I'm gonna try and get another 2 episodes done tonight. We'll see, because the episodes are getting longer too. Like 50
And
minutes,
that doesn't slow down.
an
Yeah,
hour and
in
11.
season 4, they're an hour and above, and I think the last episode was an hour and 40 minutes. Is
Oof.
essentially a movie. Um, they don't drag on though. I'll give you that. They
Good,
they they
good.
are interesting all the way through, but it is time consuming to watch them for
Mhm.
sure. But we'll move on to video games. Uh, that's enough Stranger Things for now. Before
Yeah.
we can discuss some spoilers, but we'll have to wait for Tomas to catch up on that one. And
Yeah.
Kyle, I'm not sure how far he's gotten in Stranger Things 4 yet. So I always have lots of episodes planned that don't get done. So we'll try to make some of these happen. But we have some video games that were announced. One particularly today, on the first. Well, it wasn't announced, but we got some more information about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We both saw the trailer. We got to see the new legendary creatures. We got to see a bit more with the starters. And we got to see, I think, a couple Pokemon that are out in the wild. There was a pig one. What was it?
I couldn't say his name.
Lechonk, I think it was, something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
but there's that, and there was, so it was interesting to see. I mean, the game looks good. I mean, it's a Pokemon game. I enjoyed Sword and Shield. I was probably one of the I was on the positive end of it. I know a lot of people were complaining. I did not like Diamond and Pearl as much as I thought I would. I enjoyed them
Mhm.
originally when they came out, but the remakes, um, I don't know what it was with them, but I just felt like there was something missing, and I don't know, there was something weird, and I couldn't even finish it. I think I got to before uh, the Elite Four, and I did not do Arceus. My son did; he loved it. I've been meaning to just take his copy and try it out, but I haven't had the interest, but this did pique my interest. I mean, this looks really good. I really like the Violet legendary monster. It's got little jet engines. Um, I thought he looked really cool. My son apparently thinks he looks like too much like a robot, and so prefers the other one, who is like a dragon with a wheel in his chest. So I don't know what he's talking about. What do you think, Tomas?
Uh, so for me personally, I think it looks good. I agree with you, Alan. I think the other one looks better. The Scarlet, uh,
I think Violet looks better.
Violet. So it's
The
the
one with like
Violet.
jet engines. He looks a little robotic. I will give him that, but it definitely, I think they both look a little robotic though. So
Yeah. Um, I do think it looks great. I have been waiting for the new next gen. Uh, the new yeah, the new yeah. This is the
this would be the
first one.
next generation of Pokemon. Yes.
Yeah.
Not,
So
I
I've
don't
been
even know what number we're at anymore, but it's the one after Sword and Shield, the second
yeah.
generation on the Switch.
So I'm excited for it. Haven't tried Arceus either. My fiance has tried it. She says she really likes it. I'm waiting for her to beat it, and then I'm thinking I'm gonna try it. But probably if this comes out first, I'll just jump on this. So
Well, there we go. Well, they'll have to check it out. It was just a trailer, or new trailer, so you can go check it out
mm,
yourself. There was another one. I know you didn't watch the trailer either. There was another announcement for Jedi Survivor. I didn't watch the trailer because I hadn't beaten the fallen. What is it? Fallen.
Fallen Order.
Is it Fallen Order? I thought it was something else.
Yes.
But I haven't beaten the original one. I did re-download it because I have plenty of access to it. That's never an issue, and so
Mm,
I'm giving it a shot again now that you and your fiance helped me finish out Elden Ring. So that
yeah.
was my first one I've actually gone through. So the combat style is not as daunting to me. So and I know it's much easier, so I'm gonna go through it. The cinematics have been wonderful so far. My only issue, and you could see a little video on it. I think I posted it on Discord, but I also posted it on YouTube on my YouTube, and it was a bug I had where I hit a box and I think some dust came off of it, and then something went wrong, and all the dust that was flying in the air and at my character's feet seemed to turn completely black, and it was really bizarre looking. um, Fortunately, I was able to find my way to one of the meditative save points, and after I sat down it went away. So I guess it was an easily solved bug, but it was definitely not the best first impression uh, that I got from it. But before that, I was having a good time. It was interesting. I enjoy um, the character. He seems interesting. He seems to have a big underbite, which is interesting. Uh,
I
but he's
never
also
noticed.
redheaded, so there you go. There's that, I guess. But he's been interesting. I mean, nothing amazing so far. I do like the whole being able to like touch things and get some force history or whatever they call it. That's been interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I know you beat that game. I know you have beaten it.
Yeah.
Kyle's beaten it. My brother's beaten it. Uh, Hank, who watches the show, has beaten it. So I need to just finally get through this game and see what all the fuss is about because I hear nothing but good things about the story, and I love me a good Star Wars story. So
Yeah.
I gotta
It
check
is.
it out.
It is a great story. It's really fun. I had a lot of fun uncovering it. That was actually back when my back went out. So yeah, I was just sitting right through that.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to figure out what happens, and after I beat it, I'll probably go check out that trailer and see what the fuss is. Even though it's not coming out to 2023, so we got a little
Yeah.
bit of time before even to even look at it. So we'll see. But after that, well, I think it's time we can probably move on to Moon Knight, though. I know we were debating what we wanted to do before this. We wanted to just do a Moon Knight cast, but I felt that there was too many other things we should talk about. So we'll get to Moon Knight here, and this is the spoiler discussion. So if you have not watched Moon Knight, the 6 episodes on Disney Plus, and you don't want to be spoiled by it, go watch that first because before checking this out. But until then, we're gonna keep on chugging and discuss this interesting Egyptian themed fantasy superhero story. Uh,
Yeah.
I guess is what you describe it. So I know you've been really wanting to talk about it. Like, what are your impressions of it? I mean, what did you like about Moon Knight? What did you enjoy about this show?
So for me personally, I don't know about everyone else here, but for me personally, uh, it really hit me in Boba Fett. It hit me a little bit before with Hawkeye, the TV show. Um, uh, I I was starting to really feel kind of like there were no stakes in a Disney uh, show and or movie, and I know that kind of sounds odd when you're like, yeah, well, they're kind of children's shows. Yes, they are, but we're dealing with people shooting arrows at each other, punching people. I mean, there needs to be some kind of, you just don't feel the contact, especially like if someone stabs someone with a knife and then that person just like pushes them away and walks off like nothing happened. Like it's just, it gets really, I don't know, it grinds my gears, as Peter would say from Family Guy. Um, so what I really liked about Moon Knight is it wasn't gratuitous, it wasn't over the top, but there was blood. It wasn't like people getting their heads chopped off or anything like that, but like when someone got punched, their nose was broken, there was blood. When someone got stabbed, there was blood on their clothing. It wasn't gouting out, but there was blood. When someone got stabbed and they fell in the water, there was blood in the water. Like, uh, so first off, right off the bat, that was what I really liked about Moon Knight. Was like I I appreciated that they understood that Moon Knight was definitely more of an adult comic, because when he came out and when I was reading him, at least when I was growing up, he was, I mean, he was a killer. He was no holds bars, like an avatar of justice. So what did you think about that, Alan? Though that's what I was curious about for you also.
I actually didn't know that you read Moon Knight. I mean, I know you've always had a fascination with him, but I don't think I've ever talked to you about if you read the comics.
I mean,
Um,
I should say I never diligently read any comic besides Batman.
yeah.
I read Batman comics. I love me my Batman comics. But yes, there were times where I picked up comics and I've read certain ones. Moon Knight, on the Marvel side, Moon Knight. I read all the Civil War ones. What I did you have a Wolverine one? I could have sworn I weren't read some Wolverine ones.
I mean, I had a lot of Wolverine ones, so it's very possible.
So yeah, I mean, it's a
But
few.
yeah, beyond that, um, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I have some minor issues with it.
Mm,
I'm still it's still sinking in, which is a good thing because I still am consistently thinking about it.
mm,
Um, I did like the stakes were much higher.
mm,
Um, I while I did enjoy the multiple personalities, and I knew that I knew I was going to be getting that when I was going in because I've known about Moon Knight's, uh, his issues
yeah.
from past. I've read a comic or two myself, um, but never really delve directly into Moon Knight. But
Mm,
I did know about that, so I was interested to see how they would portray that, and I think they did a really good job.
mhm.
Starting with Steve instead of Mark was, I think, an interesting play, but a good one, and I think it did a really good job
It
at
really
portraying
threw
that.
me off.
Yeah, it did a really good job because I didn't know enough about Moon Knight to know what his name was because I didn't remember
Yeah.
what his name was. So I was like, I don't. So I thought maybe this was his name. Maybe Mark was the alter ego, but then come to find, I mean, it was obviously Mark was the original and Steve was the alter. And it wasn't until I didn't even think about it until recently when I dove into some ulterior videos and things like that, how much Jack was actually in it. Um,
Mm,
so if you don't know, I would hope so. The last episode, you get a after the credits scene with Jack popping up, and at first I was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I knew that there was that sarcophagus that was like locked, so I assumed there was a third one, but I didn't know enough about Moon Knight to know that there was a third one. Um, but finding out later that there's a couple times where they hint over it because Mark thinks Steve did it and
Yeah.
Steve thinks Mark
That
did it.
Mark did it. Yeah.
And then they just kind of passed by it. And so I didn't really think about it. But later
Mhm.
on, you start to realize, or at least when I watched these videos, I started to realize, like, oh crap, those were the scenes with the most violence. Those are
Yep.
the scenes where something extremely violent happened that neither of them want to admit doing. So obviously, we're thinking that that was most likely Jack.
Yeah.
And I hate to jump the gun, but like towards the end where or oh, what is his name? What is the god's
Khonshu?
name? Khonshu. When Khonshu says, "I will release you too,"
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize that he was saying, "Yeah, I'm going to release you guys because I don't need you." My favorite one is Jack because he
Yeah.
gets things done and he seems to enjoy it more than they do. They both seem to have a conflict. Jack
Have a
doesn't seem to have
conscience.
a conscious. Well,
Yeah.
what I mean is they have a conflict on what on doing it.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
Mark has the hero mentality, even though he was a mercenary. It seems like he's willing to do violence, but for the greater good.
Mm.
Whereas Steve, he's not even a fighter at all, but he starts becoming one later. And
Yeah.
Jack seems to has no holds back. He'll just do whatever Khonshu says.
Yeah.
So he doesn't care, which is pretty fascinating. Uh, and I've never read the comics, and so I didn't know that there's this conflict. So I'm hoping we get another season for this because I want to explore that a little bit more. Um,
Definitely.
and I really think that I can't remember the name of the actor right now, but I really think he did a
Oh, yeah.
superb job. Oscar Isaac, he did a
Yes.
superb job at this role because there's even moments that I didn't even notice until I watched those other videos, um, and where he's in the chair and he actually changes his voice to Jack. Jack shows up and does dialogue at some points, and
Mm.
you don't even know it. There's even a point where it I completely missed it, where he's talking to the counselor, which is the same, the bad guy, but in his head is a counselor that he calls Ned Flanders. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a point where he has this broken nose, and then when it goes to Mark and it goes to Steve, they don't have a broken nose. And
Huh.
so that is supposed to be Jack, and he actually changes his voice to match that. It's pretty
I didn't catch that
fascinating.
one.
I
I
didn't either
I caught
until
the one
later.
I caught the ones where they both didn't know what was happening. I caught
Yeah.
those ones, but I didn't catch that one. I also one of the things I really loved about it was so I don't know comically, as in the comics, why Moon Knight has different suits, but I do know he has in the comics that white, three-piece suit with the mask, and
Well,
then his
in the
other
comics,
suit with the
I did
cape.
see it in the comics. It was a different story arc, and in that particular story arc, he
Okay.
was more of a detective, and so he
Oh,
had that
okay.
suit. They're using it in a different way in the
Yeah,
show,
but
which
I
I actually
loved
like the way they
I
use it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna say. I really loved how they juxtaposed the 2 characters in the 2 suits, and for me personally, I was always like, Mark Spector should be the one in the suit and tie, the hitman,
Uh,
and, and what's his name?
Steve.
Steve should be, the history buff, the one enjoying the clothing from the actual time period. I know it wasn't the real time period, but, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I did think it got a little a little wacky with them getting big and fighting. Um, I kind of was like, "No, you guys could have done that on a small scale, and it would have been just as for me, it would have been just as fine. But,
Uh-huh.
like, I don't know. I didn't feel the need to make 2 giant, because someone had to have seen that. Like, who did not see that? Like, I don't know.
Well, they did show. Okay, so first of all, it appears these gods, if that's what you can call
Oh, yeah,
them,
you're right.
they only let those they want to see them.
Yeah,
So
it's
only the
true.
people that would need to see them would see them. Granted, as we saw with the fight with the jackal, other they do exist on our
Mhm.
plane. They're there. They're just invisible because
Invisible.
the lady throws the soda or whatever on that guy on the jackal, and it drips off of him, and you can see him for
Yeah.
a little bit. So they're there, and so the destruction they're doing is real. It's just
Mhm.
they don't physically see them, and that's what I kind of assumed was happening.
Yeah. Um, so I liked all that kind of stuff. I love history. Unfortunately, I have not studied deeply into Egyptian history. I've, touched on them in my world
Yeah.
history classes, and my early civilization classes and stuff, but so I don't know enough about the history to know how accurate mm, those historical mentions were, or those clothings or
Yeah, I
anything.
don't know, yeah.
But I did find it fascinating because in all the history that I've studied about Egypt, we do focus like on their afterlife and stuff like that, their belief in the field of reeds and things like that. But we, at least in my knowledge, we've never really focused on a pantheon of Egypt. So it was interesting for me to hear about this pantheon, to see the different gods and how they interacted. I liked the whole statue idea, how, if the god was banished, they could turn them into this little itty bitty statue.
So, what did you think about that though? Okay, so you had the 5, I think it was, the 5
Mhm.
gods that were there. I know one of them was Ra, I'm pretty sure.
There was
I don't know
supposed
all
to
their
be
names.
7,
Yeah, but there
and
were supposed to be
then
7. Okay.
Steve, it says that actually in history there was supposed to be
And
9.
there was 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually saw a breakdown, and I'm gonna butcher it right here. So I'm not gonna go
Alright,
through it.
break it down.
I'm not breaking it down, but what I was bringing up was what happened, because there's 5 of them.
Yeah.
There is a lot of them in those that are into statues now that have been
Mhm.
imprisoned. So what is going on? And I can't remember her name because I will butcher it right now.
Oh,
But my favorite of them was the hippopotamus girl. She
oh,
is
yeah.
she was amazing. But why was she banished? What could she have possibly done to deserve that? Because
I Was
she
she banished, or had she just
I
never
okay,
chosen
so
a avatar?
here's well, she did choose an avatar, but yeah, later on, I see what you're saying there. But
Yeah.
the reason why I think she's banished is number one, uh, she doesn't seem to be involved there. Number two, she's in the underworld and she seems to be stuck there, even though she is working. She does seem to be as stuck as they are. Uh,
Uh-huh.
Number three, I don't know where I'm at anymore. Three, I think.
Yeah, I
In the
think you're up there.
credit sequence or the intro sequence, they do a display of all of these statues, and I think
Yes.
those statues are all the statues that are in that room that they get to. I think at episode 4, I think it was, or 5. It was the one right after Kenshu gets turned into the stone, where they put him on the wall.
Mhm.
So when they put him on the wall, uh, they there's a bunch of other ones there, and I think in that intro sequence, all of those statues are in that intro sequence laid out. And she is there on the right hand side. There's a statue of her. So that got me thinking that she is also banished,
Oh, okay.
or whatever they called it, imprisoned. Um, and I don't, because even Kenshu technically wasn't, while he was banished, I feel like he was still there in the afterworld. He couldn't do anything in the real world, or whatever you want to call it, but he
Mhm.
could do stuff in the other realms, because I think he's the one that left that bird carcass there when they were, because that looks just like Kenshu, the skull. I feel like basically nothing is left for chance Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Um,
yes, I assume she's banished basically. But I was kind of thinking what she could have done because she seemed so nice, and I really liked her a lot. I was like, out of all the godly characters we saw, she was the most like fun and
mhm.
interesting, and I loved the whole when she was using the corpses to talk to that lady. She can't
Yeah,
the red scarab, I think is who she is now, but I can't remember her name
yeah,
currently.
yeah,
Uh,
I do remember that part though.
but
Um,
that's a really cool scene as well.
so I and actually I hadn't thought about this, but this with Moon Knight, how how does it work with the Egyptian gods and the Norse gods?
Yeah, that was another thing I didn't think about too deeply until today when I was trying to recapture uh, the show because I didn't see it in a little while. Is that there's definitely a connection because and a difference. So I'm curious to see. I don't know if they ever will, but a breakdown because I've seen some things trying to break it down a little bit here and there
Yeah.
because the purple aspect of the afterworld was also mentioned in the Black Panther movie.
Mhm.
It was kind of down where he went to his own thing, and uh, there's something to do with whatever you believe in life affects what your afterlife is. So
Yeah, but here is my question, right? Is so okay, in the comics world, there's always a hierarchy, you know.
yeah.
Uh so here becomes my question. Are how do the Norse gods know about the Egyptian gods? Do they even recognize they're there? Have they ever interacted? And
I mean,
are the
that's a good
Greek
question.
gods,
Yeah.
if the Egyptian gods and the Norse gods are alive and doing things, and also in Love and Thunder, haven't they advertised that there's Zeus?
Well, I don't know if the Asgardians are actually
Well, not
gods.
the Asgardians themselves, but there are definitely Thor. eh, Well, they're not really gods, but they're viewed as gods. You know, Thor says that in the
Yeah.
movies. Um, d- so does that mean that the Egyptian gods are real gods? Or are they like Thor
I
gods?
that's that's a good question. I don't know. I mean,
Because they can take over people's body. You never see the Thor gods doing anything like that. Well, I don't know. Does Loki ever take over anyone's body?
Loki, I feel like
He
I
mind
mean,
controls, but
yeah, I don't know cuz he can transform. So that
yeah,
I think that kind of counters that. They don't need to he doesn't
yeah.
need to do that if he could.
So that's what's anyways, my short the short point of this was that's what's interesting to me is you're opening up all these pantheons of gods, and it's something that's always interested me about Marvel is they
Yeah.
open up all these pantheons of gods, and it's like, okay, well, now you have to establish a hierarchy with them.
They don't need to be honest. It's beyond
Well,
mortals'
no,
comprehension.
but they okay, let me put it this way, but they do establish a hierarchy usually with them.
Yeah,
Like
we make it a more
mhm,
explanation on it, but at this moment, yeah, I don't have the answers you seek, but I hope
yeah.
we get something because it is interesting to it would be interesting to know because we do know about the Thor stuff because that's the
Yeah.
only pantheon we've really dug into.
Mm.
And now we're digging into the Egyptian pantheon, and everybody and their mom seems to think that eventually we'll be heading to the Mephisto era, which is essentially, Marvel's Satan. So
Oh, yeah.
that's going to be a whole nother thing as well.
Well, you know
Um,
that they're going that way because 'cause they've already talked about releasing Blade,
yeah.
Punisher,
So
um
we're getting all those things. So they may I just don't see them breaking it down into stone though. I think that
mhm.
they would leave it more vague.
Mm.
Maybe the universe is big enough for all of them,
Well,
essentially,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they all just do their own thing.
yeah.
Uh, but I will say this or ask this: did you see the Kang stuff?
Kang, the Kang Conqueror
Kang the Conqueror. So Kang the
in
Conqueror
Moon Knight.
from Loki. Did you see the stuff
Moon Knight.
in Moon Knight?
No, I did not. Wow, I missed that. What is it?
So
Well,
it was
okay,
very
break it down.
subtle. It was very subtle. But number one, the street punks that they fought
Mhm.
against. One of them has a jacket with King the Conqueror's face on it. Um,
Ah,
there was another mention of I can't remember his name right now, but in the Kang comics or
uh,
comics that have featured Kang in the past, he has gone back in time and become a pharaoh. So
ah.
in apparently in Loki, which I'd even noticed in Loki, there was a Sphinx in the
I kind of
background.
remember something like that,
Yeah, and
actually.
in the comics, his time traveling device was a Sphinx. So
Mm,
uh, we're basically starting to get into so it's just more build up for Kang as our next big threat. So that's there. And it was kind of teased in this one. There was something else that I know I'm missing right off the top of my head. But I'm sure if anybody wants to, they can follow that rabbit hole too. It's an interesting rabbit hole to
you
discover.
know you know what's always been interesting to me, though, is that their choice to start with Thanos. I've always felt like Thanos in the comics was kind of like a was bigger than anything, like even Kang. Like, and so
Well,
it's interesting to me
I
how
would I
they're
would
going to.
argue that yeah, I understand what you're getting at. It's like, why go with the biggest baddie first?
Yeah.
And I would argue that there has never been a movie franchise like this. I don't think I think that they were probably afraid that they may never get to Thanos.
Ah, okay.
And I think that they built it up in quite a long way, and they were fortunate enough to gain the popularity. And also, Marvel being
Mhm.
purchased by Disney probably did not hurt.
Yeah.
Uh, but they were able to push and get to Thanos. I don't think they had a plan for after Thanos at first.
Mhm.
I barely think they had a plan to Thanos, but I think that was like their goal. But there was like, if we can do this, this would be amazing.
Yeah.
And bam, Thanos. And then I think once they got to Thanos, it was like, there's no slowing down with
Right?
with
Yeah.
this. So then they had to figure out what to do next. And so now
Mhm.
that's where they're at right now. And I think they have a plan. And I feel like their plan is going to be related to Kang, the Conqueror, because that makes the
Yeah.
most sense, especially with
Here's
the
the thing, though.
multiverse and everything.
I at some point, they are going to have to address the scrolls. Are we gonna get a scroll invasion? Is this ever gonna happen?
I would
That's what
argue,
I thought this was gonna be about, was the scroll invasion was next, and
Moon
then they
Knight
showed
though.
Kang. No, 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 I'm just saying,
Oh, in
b
general,
before
okay.
yeah, before Loki and everything came out, I was like, "Oh, so next they're gonna do the scroll invasion because they had the scrolls and Miss Marvel and everything like that." And then Loki came out, and I was like, "Oh, no, it's probably not gonna be the
I
scroll invasion."
feel like the scrolls will maybe dug into a little bit more with the Fantastic Four movie. I feel like
Ah,
it's a good route
that's a
to
good point.
go. Besides Doctor Doom, I mean, obviously, if they don't do
Mhm.
Doctor Doom, if they don't do Doctor Doom, I would be surprised
Yeah.
because Doctor Doom is such an infamous character. So
Mhm.
we're going to get him, and they've already given us. You did watch the Multiverse of Madness, right?
Yes, yes, I did.
Okay. All right. A little bit of spoilers for that, not too much. But with Mr. Fantastic being in
Mhm.
in the Multiverse of Madness, that is I mean, that was pretty incredible on its own, and that just kind of goes to show that that's where we're going. And Mr. Fantastic has always had very major role in the Marvel comic universe.
Yeah,
The only
yeah,
reason he hasn't been involved is because of the rights,
yeah.
as Fantastic Four was owned by Fox for so long, and so Disney couldn't use them, and so they didn't.
Mhm.
They actually replaced him with essentially Tony Stark, I think. No, Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner was basically doing his role
Yeah, I was
in a
gonna
lot of
say
the
because I feel
stuff.
like Tony was another Illuminati.
Yeah, and Bruce Banner, while he's super intelligent, I don't think he
No.
was usually that big of a player. And then when they couldn't get the rights for Fantastic Four, they started writing him as a bigger player
Mhm,
because he was the other majorly intelligent person. But Mister Fantastic is supposed to be the smartest man in the world.
mhm,
I mean, he's supposed to be a genius. So,
mhm.
and then Peter Parker actually gets close to him, and same
I
with
thought
Tony
that was
Stark.
Hank Pym.
Hank Pym, oh, yeah, I forgot about Hank Pym too.
Yeah, he's
But
pretty
yeah,
up there.
he's pretty up there too. I don't know, I don't have the tiers right now, but I know Mr. Fantastic was a big one as
Yeah,
well.
he is, definitely.
But yeah, but anyways, I enjoyed the entirety of Moon Knight. I really liked it.
Yes.
I look forward for more. Um, I'm trying to think of something else that may have caught me or I really enjoyed. I can't think of anything right
It
now that.
Like I said, it gave
Oh,
me hope again for Marvel because I saw them go, "Okay, we have an adult-ish show here, we can be a little more."
yeah. That is give us more when they put the those shows on from Netflix over. I kind of feeling
Yeah.
that we were going to lean more that way. Negatives. I just thought about that. Negatives. Is there anything negative you thought about Moon Knight?
So, negative-wise, I mean, I have liked most of the Marvel shows. I think Hawkeye was kind of my lowest point, and mainly, again, it was because of the no stakes. I was kind of just really disinterested with it. Um, I In terms of negatives for this show, it's also been a little while since I've seen it. I I don't think I liked, uh I struggled a bit with the whole, infirmary scene when they're in, like, the hospital
Uh,
the and he's the doctor. Also, something that kind of did actually, now that I think about it, something that did drive me absolutely nuts is there is no way in heaven or hell that a man with that much glass in his shoes can walk around that far. uh, I mean, I'm really trying to think of
Here,
negatives.
I'll give mine.
Yeah,
I'll
maybe
give
that
you
will
an idea.
jog some memory.
And while it does make sense for how it worked, I didn't like how they kept cutting away from these major action scenes. That
Ah,
obviously something incredible happened that
mhm,
we didn't get to see. The final fight in this, the finale battle with the giant gods and them
mhm,
fighting in the streets ends with you not seeing half of it.
it's
And
true.
that actually bothered me because I was like, what happened? Why is that building like falling apart? Why is that car exploded? Why is there
Mhm,
fire everywhere?
mhm,
What happened? And I'm a little annoyed we didn't get to see that. And I understand they're trying to say, oh, well, Jack did it. And because we're not following Jack, we're following Mark or Steven. So we don't get to see what happened.
yeah,
But if you're gonna, spend all this money and do this incredible choreography and fight stuff, let me watch it. Why are we
yeah,
hiding this? I mean, I don't. It bothered me a little bit, and like I said, I know it was for the story and whatnot, but
mhm,
I still feel like I really, really, really wish I could have seen that because there's some interesting uh, turnabouts that happen that are kind of like, okay, what the heck happened? So
yeah.
upsetting. That's my only big gripe with this, I think, this show.
That's definitely a fair gripe to have. That is definitely a fair gripe to have. Because I can definitely agree with you, and now that you say it, it does kind of make me go, "Oh yeah, I wish I had seen what that was." Um, I now also that you talk about it, there is something else I wish they had cleared up, and maybe they're saving it for the next season. I don't know, but I wish that they had cleared up what happened between Khonshu and the guy who walks around with his feet in the glass shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
The
they say
pro
that
Yeah.
they have a falling apart, that they no longer see eye to eye, blah blah blah. And then when he's in the tomb, he tells Khonshu, "I love doing what you had me doing," and things like that. So does that mean that Khonshu broke the contract, or So there was kind of
Oh,
that
yeah,
to
I didn't even
me.
think about that. Yeah, well, I actually assumed that he broke the contract with Khonshu to go to Ahmed or
Yeah,
Ahmed.
that's kind of what I thought too, until the scene where he's in the tomb and he's telling him, I loved doing what you did. I loved the pain. I loved the violence. I loved hurting people. And so for me, it was like, oh, so all that other stuff before about how Khonshu was too slow is just BS, because you don't care about the judgment. You only care about the pain.
Yeah,
Like,
then that could be, yeah, I didn't even think about that. That maybe that's why. Maybe he felt that he was falling too far into that end of the enjoying the process. Maybe he wanted
yeah.
to find an easier way, which would be Ahmed essentially, weeding people out instead of
Also,
uh
Khonshu is very physical, so
yeah.
maybe he wanted a way, maybe he didn't like feeling that joy from hurting, so he wanted to do it in a less hurtful way, and that was the
Yeah.
Amit thing. I don't know, but at the same time, I got to thinking, I was like, well, does that mean that actually Khonshu was like, no, I don't want you anymore. Like, you're going nuts. Like,
I don't think so, because I feel like Khonshu doesn't care about like how it gets done. Essentially, bad guy, I don't care if
yeah,
bad things happen to bad guy.
yeah.
That's how I feel about Khonshu. It's more of the Punisher aspect in a
And
way.
also, collateral damage isn't a big thing on Khonshu's list. I noticed that it was kind of like, oh, someone got killed in the process of you killing the bad guy, but did you kill the bad guy? Yes, then that's fine. You know. Um he didn't want you going out and killing, but if you threw a grenade at a car, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly. So that's
so anyways,
interesting.
but
I mean,
but
yeah,
yeah,
I
so
guess they're bad guys, but it doesn't matter if you do bad stuff to bad guys,
two
which
bad guys. Yeah.
yeah, and so I guess it is a catch-22, which I
Yeah.
kinda think Mark, kinda sees that.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting, how it happens. But other than that, I know we both enjoyed it, so we hope to see more
Mhm,
for sure. Are
definitely.
you excited for Miss Marvel? That is the next show that's coming out for Marvel now, is Miss
I bel
Marvel, Kamala Khan.
I'm pretty sure I am. I I'm going into it expecting it to be a little more lighthearted. See, I don't mind lighthearted Marvel shows. The problem that I had with Hawkeye was I never yeah, Hawkeye has the witty one-liner and stuff in the movies and things like that, but he's a very actually serious and pretty twisted guy if you listen to his backstory. Like, he's not proud of it, but he's a killer. And
Yeah.
so when we got and man, I really hated what they did to Fisk. Like, I absolutely despised it. Um but so I have no problem with a funny Marvel movie or a lighthearted Marvel show. And so yeah, I think I'm ready for this. I'm a little confused at how her power works from what I've seen in the previews.
Yeah, it was supposed to be polymorph stuff, but it's becoming a little different. I watched the trailer and I've also read a bit of comics of Kamala Khan,
Mhm.
aka Miss Marvel, and it's going to be a bit more Green Lanterny, I think.
Yeah, I
Um,
was almost seeing that too. Like, there's that one point where it almost looks like she puts up a force field, like these
yeah,
things fall into place
um,
in front of her.
from what I've understood, the reasoning behind it, and this may be hearsay, it may not be true, but the reasoning may be linked to her powers being too close to Mr. Fantastic,
Mhm.
which I don't know. I think her powers are a bit different. She's a
Yeah.
polymorph. She's not just stretchy.
Stretchy, yeah.
She can change her whole body's appearance.
Yeah, she
Uh,
could turn into a dragon if she wanted to, like
exactly. So it's a bit different how her powers work, but there is an uproar of people getting mad about the changing of the powers.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm really worried about it. I haven't seen it yet. So, and I did enjoy her
Yeah.
story in the books too. So I've read her comics, and
Mhm.
the when I watched the trailer, it does feel like the same vibe of the comics. So I'm not really worried
Okay.
about it. I'm curious to see what happens.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm excited for it. I've been excited for the Kamala Khan one for a while now,
I will
because
say, in seeing previews, I am more excited for She-Hulk, but
yeah, the She-Hulk is looks really good too. I actually forgot about She-Hulk.
Mhm.
We talked about it last week actually.
Yeah.
She-Hulk looks really good as well. We failed to mention the poor CG. Um, there was now rumors that the CGI studio that did her art,
Mhm.
uh, may have made her a bit bulkier, but then Disney toned it down
Mm.
to make her a bit more feminine looking, I
Mhm.
suppose. So people are getting a little uproar about that. But the CG on her face, the facial features was a little bit bright green, but they
Yeah.
kind of toned it down a bit to make it a little more flesh-like or a little bit closer to the Hulk. So that's
Mm.
good. I am very excited for it. It looks like a completely different type of superhero show,
Yes, it
which
does.
I'm excited for. I'm curious how much they will delve into her sexual appetite, I suppose. I don't know. I couldn't think of the term, but she does tend to move around,
In
if you
the
know what I
comics.
mean, in the comics. So I'm curious if they're going to talk about it at all, or if they're just going to completely ignore it. We'll
Yeah.
see, because it is kind of a big part of her character. So
Although they did ignore the drinking with Tony,
they
so
did. They did. But I feel like they have a bit more wiggle room now. I feel
yeah.
like they can do more than when Tony was literally the flagship. They were just trying to make everybody happy. I think now
Yeah.
they have a little bit more wiggle room. I mean, just got Moon Knight. We just got done talking about how
Mm.
much
It's a
more
little more adult.
violent it is and a little more adult it is. So, and then the Netflix shows
And
moved
like you
over.
said,
So
they purchased yeah, they got the new Netflix shows on there, and those ones are definitely more adult. Like
for sure, for sure. Now, from what I've heard, they're not canon, but then Daredevil is getting a season 4, so
yeah.
I don't know anymore.
And I've also heard that the girl who played Jessica Jones has been talking with Disney about reprising her
Oh,
role.
I mean, I
So,
enjoyed Jessica Jones season 1 and 2. I don't know if I saw the
I'd
3rd
never
season.
finished 3. I never finished
No.
3. I didn't really like 1 or 2, but I liked them better than Iron Fist. So,
Yeah, that's where it lost me, was Iron Fist. I need to go
yeah,
back because after Iron Fist,
I don't
I didn't
know.
continue.
I don't know if you need to go back to Iron Fist, man. I
Well, not
don't think
Iron
I
Fist, but
finished
I
it.
did
Oh,
like Luke
okay.
Cage a lot. I
Yeah,
did
Luke
like
Cage was
Jessica
good.
Jones, and I never watched any of the Punishers. So
The
I do want to
Punishers were
continue those.
actually the Punishers were actually good if you go into it going like, "I'm gonna watch a John Wick, but for TV."
Hey, I love John Wick, so that
Yeah,
sounds like great entertainment.
I'm just saying, don't go into it going like, "Alright, let's see some story."
No,
Like, it's
I
pretty
wouldn't. Punisher's not
straightforward.
he's not for story. To
Yeah,
me, maybe other people would say otherwise, but I would argue that
yeah,
Punisher is the action film equivalent of a superhero.
exactly.
That's all he is,
Exactly.
and that's fine. That's all he needs to
Yeah,
be. But anyways, I think we've discussed enough about this
yeah.
topic. I think we got it all done, and so we'll have to see you all next week. Thanks for joining us, and see you later.
Mhm. Bye.